I think the most complex part of my role as principal is just holding like so many priorities at a time, and all being really equally important. So, once again, we talk about working as a team. And I think for me, if I don't have a strong sort of teaching and leadership team, it's really hard to do my job well.
Welcome to Trailblazing Schools, the podcast for educational leaders at the intersection of leadership, complexity, and intelligent technology. I'm Trudy Graham. This is a space for leaders navigating uncharted territory. We explore strategic leadership, ethical innovation, and how AI can strengthen the deeply human work of education. Welcome to another episode of the Trailblazing Schools podcast. Today, I'm just so excited to welcome Tim Prerau-Lorking to the podcast. And Tim is from Cromehurst School in Lindfield, Sydney. Welcome, Tim.
Thanks, Trudy. It's an absolute pleasure. I'm excited for today. It's going to be great.
Yeah. Now, Tim, I know from our pre-episode chat, you have given AI the prompt, the way we start every episode with a guest.
Yep.
And the prompt is, with everything you know about me, write a 100-word bio. What has your AI said about you, Tim? I can't wait to hear this.
Okay. So, Tim is a dedicated and values-driven leader, principal of Cromehurst School, where he leads a specialist setting supporting students with diverse learning and support needs. He is passionate about inclusive education, student voice, and building strong, connected school communities. Tim is known for his collaborative leadership style, working closely with staff, families, and networks to drive meaningful improvement. He brings a clear focus on evidence-informed practice, curriculum innovation, and staff development. With a calm and approachable manner, Tim prioritises wellbeing alongside high expectations, ensuring every student is supported to learn, grow, and thrive. And I feel like that's so spot on. I can't believe that's thrown that out of me. Wow.
So you're saying it knows you well?
I think, it does know me quite well now. Yeah.
And a couple of things that I picked up on: collaborative leadership style.
Yeah. So in my experience within leadership and in the schools that I've worked in, I always think the strongest teams or the strongest leadership teams are schools where there's trust. You can collaboratively, delegate responsibilities and work together for the best outcomes of students. So and also what that involves is collaboratively working with families, particularly in a specialist setting like ours. Parent involvement is absolutely key for their success. Cromehurst School, we work really closely alongside a lot of therapists as well. So really having clear communication around, it's cyclical of our therapists with our families, with what we're doing at school to really set our students up for success. Particularly, something that's really important for me is having success for when they leave us, because I know what we do at school is amazing, and it supports families. And they tell us often, like, we're so happy with Cromehurst, we love what you guys do. But I mean, even from my experience growing up with a brother with, moderate autism and intellectual disability, when our kids leave school, it's really daunting, and it's really big for our families. It's a big deal.
Yeah, and as you speak, I just can't help but think it takes a team, right? And it's a big team.
Yeah. Lots of our students will have a case team of 10 plus people. So, our teachers work really hard in communicating and planning and putting things in place for every single student that comes to Cromehurst School.
Yeah. So, Tim, let's do the next part, which was around the messaging as a guest on a podcast about trailblazing and leading in uncharted territory. What was the key messaging that you bring?
Um, so if I've learned anything about leading in uncharted territory, it's that you don't always get the luxury of a clear plan, and that's okay. So in my context, there are plenty of moments where the path isn't mapped out. What matters is staying grounded in what we're doing and the work and who we're doing it for. So for me, that's all. It always comes back to the students, our staff, and our community. I try to focus on bringing people with me, so listening, building trust, and taking small, deliberate steps forward. So we don't always need to have the answer, but we need to be willing to act, reflect, and adjust.
Yeah, that rings
Um,
true for me.
yeah, and leading in these spaces is less about certainty and it's a lot about courage and making sure that no one is sort of walking that path alone. So we're doing it together.
Yeah, which loops back to what we were saying just before, right? Working as a team
Yeah, oh,
together.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in the specialist settings, it's so important. But I think in any well-run school or school that's really humming, they have great leadership teams and great teacher teams, and you feel it as soon as you walk through the gates. The parents feeling comfortable going and talking to anyone, and yeah, there's a real buzz.
So, Tim, for those that are listening in, describe your current context. Tell us about Cromehurst.
Yeah, great. So Cromehurst School is a school for specific purposes. We have a student cohort where every student has a moderate to severe intellectual disability, and often alongside with autism or physical disability as well. So we cater for 100 students at our school as well. So it's a wonderful, wonderful school. We balance in our primary years sort of a mainstream curriculum that we differentiate to meet the needs of our kids. And then from 7 to 12, we have a real focus on life skills and getting our students ready for entering the world in a supported environment and being able to contribute to society and have the skills that they can, at the best of their ability, live a life that on their own or with support. Um, yeah, that's in a nutshell. Cromehurst School. We have a wonderful, wonderful staff and a wonderful school community where there's a lot of wraparound support for our students and our families. We're in a fantastic suburb called Linfield, which is in the sort of upper north shore of Sydney. In context, it's about 25 minutes into the CBD. It's about 15 minutes down to the northern beaches. So as the crow flies, it's about 15 minutes to DY Beach. So we're in a really lovely, leafy part of Sydney.
Yeah, it is beautiful. I've been there. So, Tim, what aspects of leading your school feel most complex or demanding? And where do you notice the greatest cognitive load in your role?
So I think the most complex part of my role as principal is just holding so many priorities at a time, and all being really equally important. So, once again, we talk about working as a team. And I think for me, if I don't have a strong sort of teaching and leadership team, it's really hard to do my job well. So look, we're also, at our school, we're navigating, really high level sort of wellbeing. We're navigating sort of behavioural support. A big thing at our school is the medical needs of our students as well. So making sure that students are safe, making sure our staff are trained and know how to respond when we have those sort of significant medical emergencies as well. So often moving between sort of those priorities and then, the priorities of being a strategic thinker and leader of the school in regards to curriculum, our school planning cycle. We've got external validation this year, which where,
Yeah.
it shouldn't be a big deal, but it is stressful, external validation. And it's so trying to make sure that I'm telling my teaching staff and leadership staff that this is actually a celebration of what we've been doing. So let's not stress about it, but you can't help it. You want to make sure you do a good job, and finding the time, to be collecting and annotating all our evidence sets and putting together something that we're really proud of. It certainly takes time. So that's the complexities. And I think the most demanding part of my job is balancing all of those priorities and still making sure I get home and spending enough time with my family as well.
Yeah, yeah. It really is quite a universal experience, isn't it? When I talk to different leaders, there's just so much in common. The contexts are different, but there's certainly similarities in challenges across sectors, across states. It's there's some things are just universal in this professional role at this time. So, Tim, I'd love to hear, have you intentionally changed the way you lead in response to the pressures?
Uh, y- So yes, yes. I've been in sort of, principal roles now. This is going into my fourth year, and I've certainly found with experience, I am able to, like now I'm really able to not take as much on board. Really early on, I found myself trying to hold too much, I guess, personally. Um, really taking sort of my staff and my students' sort of well-being or their, their pressures on board, and making sure everyone was happy, and being well looked after to be able to produce sort of the work that they needed to, and have the life that style they needed to, I guess, do the best job for the kids at our school. So I guess what I've learnt now, and the turning point was for me was recognizing that if I kept operating like that, I'd limit both my own effectiveness and also the growth of my team. Um, so what really prompted the shift was I guess, the increasing complexities of our school context. So not just in terms of teaching and learning, but the changing school environment, with a much heavy focus on the student health, as I was talking about before, and their medical needs. Um, so at my school, we're seeing more students with complex health profiles, which brings, I guess, additional layers of risk management, staff training and compliance. So balancing that alongside curriculum, wellbeing, and school improvement, I guess, has sharpened me and made me realize that I do need to lead differently. Um, Not being the person that drives everything. And once again, talking about how being able to confidently delegate leadership and responsibilities has helped me a lot with those pressures. And a big part of that is, I guess, building trust, clarifying, executive roles, and then making sure staff have that genuine ownership, and putting those things into place and having that shared responsibility. I think I answered that.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. Can you share an example of how you've used AI in your leadership? Anything that you're trying to solve, clarify, draft, or analyze, think through over time?
Yeah. So I use AI a lot now to help sort of, um, I guess, save time and just to really clarify things, particularly when I'm sharing it. But I think the biggest time saver that I found, and the aspect that AI has helped me with the most, was last year when I was doing my annual school report, and the time that we saved in producing that was not just halved. Like, I think I could have done it in a day. So
Yeah.
having, I guess, my data sets, done well, really prompting what we needed to have into AI. And I guess I've now been using AI tools for 5 or 6 years. So I feel quite confident with sort of really prompting these tools really well. But I guess the reviews and how it was able to contextualize, our analyses was so quick. And yeah, gosh, it just saved us a lot of time. Like it just, from conversations I would have had with my exec team around, you know, points around, stuff feedback, or, how we were hitting our strategic directions. Yeah, we were doing that within hours. Um, you know, One thing I always say to my staff as well is AI always needs a human edit. So we need to prompt it really well, and the better we prompt it, the better answer that we will get back. But it still needs a human edit. I think AI, that's sort of, yeah, that's how it's made our life easier. But I'm really, with my staff constantly is telling them that we do need a human edit with these sort of things. So yeah,
So,
so the specific example would be absolute the time saver with my annual report.
yeah. If you see yourself as a trailblazer and you're looking for structured, strategic support to lead with clarity and conviction, visit trudygraham.com.au/connect. That's where leaders begin the conversation about working together. I'd welcome the opportunity to partner with you. What's been the biggest difference? What's changed a result of working this way?
So I think the most immediate change was time. Work that would previously take hours through multiple drafts, discussions, and back and forth can now be progressed much more efficiently. And that's given us a lot of time back. So lots of really valuable time back, particularly around that sort of procedural writing, or, writing documents that we're going to publish out to our school community.
Yeah.
The second shift that I've seen coming, particularly in the last sort of, 3 to 6 months, has been like the clarity, particularly around communication. So the way I structure and refine messaging now is much tighter. It's also helped reduce, misinterpretation from staff and the need to need to just make it much more articulate to send out to my staff. So for example, like if I was going to send out an email around some, professional learning, the reasons we're doing it and the why, it's an email that might take me 5 to 10 minutes to just, quickly brief up and send out. It takes me half the time. And if I prompt it, you prompt it well, I'm sending out something that's really high level, and the clarification I'm getting back that staff need is almost gone. They know what they're doing, and it's been really helpful.
So you
That's
make a great point. I hadn't really thought about the clarity piece. And to quote Brene Brown,
mm,
clear is kind. So having that clarity in your communication to be able to articulate your messaging well for people, that's, yeah, I don't, we shouldn't underestimate that.
yeah, absolutely. And with that is kindness, clarity, and then it saves time. It does save time. People
Yeah.
can get on with what they need to do, and they have a clear understanding of expectations, and it's certainly helped us in that space.
Yeah. And Tim, you have the benefit of having New South Wales EduChat at your fingertips as well, don't you?
Yeah, EduChat is a wonderful tool that the Department of Education in New South Wales has brought out, and as a exec team, we use it a lot. We particularly what I'm finding now with my team, instead of them being sort of hesitant with information, they use it as a tool to find that information out. So, they're not hesitating anymore. They're actually really curious, and they're confident into finding out information. And it's great. They come to me with information that I'm like, that's fantastic. I'll double check that, but that sounds, it sounds exactly right. And I've just seen them significantly build their own capacity, and confidence since we've started really driving it out across our school, particularly after
Yeah.
we did, some professional learning with you, Trudy.
Yeah. Tim, that just highlighted for me too one of the time piece and gathering information, because one of my biggest bugbears when I was principal was how long it took to get good, clear policy advice. So are you finding that the New South Wales EduChat helps in that space where you can cut to the chase and get clarity around policy and guidelines faster?
Yes, absolutely. So if we are really unsure of something and are need information quickly, we can just ask EduChat, and it will give us factual guidance on what the answer is or where to find it. So it'll send us links. Um, yeah, it is fantastic. It's a fantastic tool.
Oh, so it provides sources as well for you?
Yeah, yeah. So provides sources and links. So and that's just from a leadership perspective. I know that my teaching staff are using it with their teaching and learning and programs, and it's getting better and better. It's EduChat, all our AI generative tools, they're growing and learning, and they're starting to produce much better output. And EduChat is exactly the same.
Yeah. In the words of Ethan Mollick, the worst AI you use is the one you're using today, right? Because just like you said, they just keep getting better and better the more we interact and train them with the machine learning.
I really noticed the time saved, and the competing priorities in schools. So for me, this term's a big term. We have EV coming up. We've got school reports, and I you hear our teachers talk around, oh, there's not enough time, and where am I supposed to find the time to do that? And I feel like I'm not hearing as much of that kind of chatter anymore. I think teachers are finding time again, and they're not as stressed because they're using these tools to really help them with things like programming and giving them ideas, and being able to output it for you. So it's not just giving you information; it's actually giving you something in a PDF format or a Word doc. Or
Yeah,
yeah, it's pretty
that's
good.
great. So, Tim, if another
Mm.
principal's listening and they feel unsure where to begin, what would you suggest?
If you've never used an AI generative tool before, my advice is to just get on and start to play and have a bit of fun with it. So I can remember, so this is before EduChat. So I think it was 5 or 6 years ago when I had a friend who was an AI engineer, and we would have dinner parties and then start to talk around this, this tool that's coming out. And he'd say, oh yeah, you just ask it to write you uh, an email, or you just ask it to write you a basketball program. And then you can say things like, and make it funny, and it will make it really funny. And I was really intrigued. And I can remember having to ping an email off and waiting, I think 2 to 3 weeks to get access. You can access all these tools so quickly now. So back to the question. If I was a principal and, where to begin, I would start by just getting on and having a play. I would even if you go back to some things like emails that you've sent, some, high pressure emails or important emails that you really need to have clarity on before you send out. I would just copy and paste, put it into AI tool and just say, make it warm and professional, or bring the tone up to a professional standard, and just see what it spits out. And I think you'll be really pleasantly surprised, even with just emails, how the level of sort of clarity and professionalism is it's excellent. And that's basic. That is basic stuff. You wait till you start uploading documents and things like that, and talking about school planning cycle, and now the time I'm saving, and the questions that I can ask. it's such a good tool. We're so lucky to have this now in education and within leadership. I think if you want to save yourself time, get on board.
Yeah, yeah. I'm with you, Tim. And thank you so much for sharing your experience and your journey in playing with the tools. Tim, if there are listeners, principals, school leaders who'd like to get in touch, where should they reach out?
Our school website's probably the best place to get in touch with me. We also have a really active school Facebook page as well. So if you were to reach out through our Facebook or our school website, so Cromehurst School, that would be the best way to get in touch.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you. Now, Tim, to wrap up,
Lovely.
I have 3 ritual questions. I'd love to hear your responses to this. First one, what is the best kept secret about where you are?
The best kept secret about Cromehurst School is our community and where we're located. So we have just a wonderful parent and community surrounding us. They're so supportive. They're well educated. They're active in being part of our students' academic lives. We're also really close to Linfield shops, which just means that we can, particularly with our life skills program in a high school, we can access a really great, shopping community to help build our students' sort of skills in that area. So, we've got an IGA and we've got a Harris Farm, and our kids access that a lot in their learning. So I think our community and the location of our school certainly is very special.
What book or film would you recommend, and why does it matter to you?
I had a good think about this one actually, Trudy. I think at the moment I'm reading Embracing Messy Leadership by Alyssa Gallagher and Rosie Connolly. And it's really resonating with me. So I guess it reinforces the importance of emotional connection with staff and leading with empathy. So building trust and recognizing that leadership isn't always neat and linear. And that's something I've seen consistently in good leaders, and it's something I try to prioritize in my own practice. The other a personal book that I really love is Breath by Tim Winton. I love Tim Winton's books, but Breath particularly. In my downtime, I'm an avid surfer, so this book is a lot about risk taking and surfing. It's something that gives me a lot of, well-being and time to switch off. And I love how Tim Winton also describes like the Australian landscape and his connection, particularly in Western Australia. So I've read that book a number of times. I love it. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, that one's on my to read pile and has been for a very long time. So I need to do something about that. So great. And fiction and a non-fiction. Love it. Thanks, Tim. Now, with
No
your
worries.
surfing mention, I'm a bit curious about this last question. What's something that brings you comfort or joy at the end of a long week?
Look, another thing I didn't mention this about our school location is we are quite close to the beaches. So
Yeah, of course. Yeah, family, everything. Well, thank you, Tim. It's been an absolute pleasure to chat with you again. And thank you, like I said earlier, for bringing your experiences and your own learning and leading journey with AI particularly. And in these complex times, as you've described at your school, there are pressures. And I think people listening in today would absolutely resonate with some of your experiences because they're feeling it too. So thanks, Tim.
no worries. Thanks for having me, Trudy. Yeah, absolute pleasure. And I'm looking forward to catching up and doing some more learning soon. It'll be great.
You've been listening to Trailblazing Schools with me, Trudy Graham. If this episode brought someone to mind, share it with them. You'll find further reflections, practical resources and leadership tools in the show notes. Until next time, lead with courage, seek clarity and keep trailblazing.